Won't you let me be? I don't know why you keep on haunting me. So last video here at countryguitaronline.com, we looked at how to use Guitar Pro tablature software, and we tabbed out this 12-bar blues progression in the style of Merle Haggard. So in this video, we're going to do a full breakdown of how to play that exact same 12-bar blues progression in the style of Merle Haggard. And this is a progression that we're borrowing from the old classic song called Blues Stay Away From Me. So we'll pull up tablature here in 1 second. I'm going to break this down one line at a time, and I'm going to show you all some really cool stuff along the way while we're learning this. And we'll also have a backing track that you can use for practice here at countryguitaronline.com in the member area. So anyways, let's get to it. Let's pull the tablature up and let's start learning how to play this 12-bar blues progression. So on the screen, we've got the first 4 bars of this 12-bar blues arrangement. And this is pretty much just a standard 12-bar blues progression in the key of E, except we're going to be playing this nice Merle Haggard style melody. So let me play through this first line of the tablature, and then I'll break it down for you. You probably noticed already that we have 4 bars of E, and for each of those bars we're going to be playing this exact same thing. So you just need to learn 1 bar and then you'll be able to play this entire line. So let's look at the first bar. It goes like this. Pick, 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 triplet. Pick, 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 triplet. We got that triplet right at the end of that measure. Triplet. So to start that triplet, we've got to hammer on from our middle finger into our ring finger. So hammer, pick, triplet. One more time. Let's count this out right here, just like this. 1, 2, and 3, triplet. 1, 2, and 3, triplet. So at the end of that measure, we had a triplet. Those of y'all that aren't familiar with triplets, they're pretty simple, actually. A triplet is just when you play 3 notes where you would normally just have 2 notes. So you would cram 3 notes in the same space where you would normally have 2. So if we count out 1 measure in this 12-bar blues progression, we count that out in 1/8 notes, it would go like this. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So instead of saying the 4 and at the end of that measure, the 4 and, that's 2 1/8 notes. Instead of saying that, we're going to do triplet right there in the same space where we had the 4 and. So it's going to turn into this. 1, and 2, and 3, and triplet. 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 So a triplet is always named after the 2 notes that you started with originally. So in this case, we had the 4 and, so that's 2 1/8 notes. So we're going to call this an 1/8 note triplet. You can also have a quarter note triplets. You can have 16th note triplets. It all depends on those two notes that you're originally starting with. But most common in country and bluegrass is the 8th note triplets. So that's what we're playing in this 12-bar blues arrangement. All right. Only other thing I wanted to point out in this first line, if we look at that first measure one more time, the second note in the first measure, right there, the 4th string, 2nd fret, we're going to kind of cut that note short a little bit and add a little more emphasis to that note, just like this. Hear it? Pick, 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 triple it. And to cut that short, you just got to lift up your pointer finger slightly just to mute the note, cut it short a little bit. And when you cut a note short like that and you add a little more emphasis to it, that's called staccato. It's another music theory term right there. But anyways, let's play through this first line, all 4 bars. Practice with me here if you want to, and then we'll go into the next line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... If you're ready, we'll pull up the next line of the tablature. Now we've got measures 5 through 8. Sounds like this. Let's look at those first 2 measures on the screen, measures 5 and 6. You see we switched to the A chord at this point, and for measures 5 and 6, you're going to play that exact same pattern that we used earlier. You know, this one here. So that was over the E, but now we're playing it over the A. Exact same pattern, but you just have to shift every note down 1 string. So you'll start on the A string and then play the same pattern. So you already know how to do this basically. Same pattern, shift everything down 1 string. So that will get you measures 5 and 6 over the A. And then when you're ready, we'll just finish it up here with the measures 7 and 8. So we're going back to the E chord, measures 7 and 8. So measure 7 goes like this. So that's what we've been playing up to this point. You know that pattern. But then measure 8, basically the exact same, but we've got a little bass line walk up at the end of measure 8. So let's play measure 8 over the E. That's that new part. And it's still a triplet. So instead of doing that hammer-on triplet that we've been doing up to this point, we're going to play the bass line walk-up triplet. Triplet. And I use my ring finger, open, pointer. We're doing that walk up there because we're walking up into the next measure where we're going to the B chord here in 1 second. But let's go ahead and play this line one more time, and then we'll pull up the last line of this 12-bar blues arrangement. So here we go, starting in measure 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and A. And let's pull up the next line here, going to measure 9. Let's play through this line right now. All right, let's break this down. So measures 9 and 10, playing that over the B chord. So here is what we're going to start with. Let's learn measure 9 first. You saw right there at the beginning of measure 9, my hand is down here near the nut, you know. But then you got to shift up a little bit to play the rest of it. You'll see why we're shifting our hand up here in 1 second once we get to the 10th measure. But measure 9, we're starting down here because in the previous measure, remember we had that triplet walk up, triplet into measure 9. So it's just a nice transition to the B chord with that walk up, but then shift up the neck at that point. So let's go over the fretting hand fingering for measure 9. Beginning of measure 9, I use my middle finger on that 2nd fret, 5th string, and that's the note B. So middle, pinky right there. I use my pinky for the next note. So middle, pinky, ring pointer, ring pointer, triplet. So after you shift up the neck, you see that we're doing that same type of triplet that we've been doing up to this point. Triplet. So that makes sense right there at the end of measure 9. So that's measure 9. Pick, 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 triplet. And now let's learn measure 10 right here. The first note in measure 10, we're using our pinky on the 7th fret. And that is the note B also. You know, it's just a different location. Same note. But we're using our pinky here because we can use that same pattern that we've been playing up to this point. You know, the same pattern we played over the E and the same pattern that we played over the A. You know, if you look at it, it really makes a lot of sense. So pinky, pointer, ring pointer, triplet, and that's measure 10. Let's play measures 9 and 10 together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, after that, we're just going to the E chord next, measure 11. In measure 11, you already know how to play this. It's that same pattern. Then measure 12, it's almost the same, but we're adding a little turnaround riff at the end of measure 12. So measure 12 sounds like this. One, 2, and 3, and triplet. 1, 2, and 3, and triplet. So that's that little turnaround riff. And triplet. Ring finger, open pointer, middle. One more time, measure 12. can add a little more emphasis to that turnaround riff right there. You know, a little extra volume. It kind of tells the listener's ear, you know, okay, we're going to wrap up this 12-bar blues progression with this turnaround riff, and that'll take us back to the beginning of the 12-bar blues progression, and we'll play it all over again. So let's go ahead and go back to the beginning of this 12-bar blues progression. I'm going to play the entire thing, and after that, we'll add some singing to it, and we're also going to look at an easier way to play this if you're not quite up for playing this melody on your guitar. I'll show you a nice, easy way to pick and strum this if you just wanted to sing this song and get through the entire thing with a nice country strumming pattern. So let's go back to the beginning of this arrangement here, and we're in measure 1. We're going to play it all the way.
Blues, why don't you let